Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Nordstrom, Goodbury. This is Eagle Eyes on Tech. I am Eagle Falcon. This is a weirder episode than normal. Because nothing went according to plan this weekend. We got a lot to talk about today. The FCC pushing forward with ending net neutrality rules. I want to revisit the Tesla Semi later. And we got a bit more. But first, I want to talk about what's been going on here on the podcast, on the show. And why a lot of you who are regular listeners can't figure out why this wasn't broadcasted live. Here's what happened. I wake up Saturday morning at around 7 or 8 a.m. That's actually, believe it or not, late for me. Normally I'm up earlier than that. But on Saturdays, I sleep in until 7 or 8. Sometimes even 9 if I'm really, really tired. And then my morning is spent going through and catching up on the tech news of the week. Now, this week was really, really easy. Because I rewatched I watched for the first time after I finally found it, the Tesla Semi press conference. And there's actually underline a lot, that a lot of people missed. That really shows the problems with Tesla right now. And then plus, every single twit on Twitter just lost their mind when the FCC announced they were going to push forward with eliminating net neutrality. But, like I said, we're going to talk about that later. What happened while I was in the middle of it was that I shifted my shoulder weird. I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but as I was typing, as I was doing my research, all of a sudden there was a very sharp pain in my shoulder. And so I went to lay down a bit. And to me, it was clear what I did. I pinched a nerve in my shoulder. And granted, I did something weird to it earlier this week, and it was the same sort of nerve-pinching pain. I don't think it's a pulled muscle. I don't think I broke anything. I don't think it's anything serious based on how it is. It's like on the back of my shoulder blade. Now, if you're a doctor and you want to prove me wrong, please do at eaglefalcontech@gmail.com. But anyway, so that happened. And it was so bad that not only did I announce on Twitter that Eagle Eyes on Tech Live was canceled after I had most of the show prep done, but that all of my streams for the day were canceled. And for those of you who don't know, on Saturdays, I do too. I do a morning stream that starts off with Eagle Eyes on Tech. Then I do an after-hours one late at night at 10 p.m. Central Time. And that one actually goes into the a.m., sometimes as late as 3 or 4 a.m., depending on how into the game we are. Though, very rarely does it get that late. I can't ruin my sleep schedule that badly. But I had to cancel it all. The pain was just too great. It was even to the point where I thought, okay, maybe I should take a hot bath. I haven't taken a bath in a while. First off, I find out, and I should have realized this just by getting into the tub, my tub is tiny, and I'm a large guy. And I do mean that both width and height. I mean, obviously, I'm a large guy width-wise. Obviously. But tall, it doesn't translate on the camera that well. I'm 6'4". I think the last time I had a bath was in, like, middle school. Unless you count, like, a hot tub at a resort. It was like trying to get in, it's just like, oh man, that was even worse. I couldn't even get out. It was a nightmare. But yeah, yesterday was just quite possibly the worst day ever that I didn't work. It was literally a day I wasted. And all I ended up doing was just laying in a bed watching Breaking Bad again. And in hindsight, I probably should have went and watched anything else. But I didn't. So, here's the way it's going to work. I'm still in pain, by the way. My neck's a little crooked. My shoulder is still bothering me. But it's not so bad that it's not like I reach for the mouse and wince in pain and go, no! Jesus! It's not nowhere near that bad. Which is actually good, because in 2 hours I'm actually supposed to be going to my aunt's to celebrate Thanksgiving now that they're back in town. And I think I'm well enough to do it. But we'll see. Here's how this episode's going to work, though. I'm going to be doing this in frequent breaks. Between each segment, I am going to go ahead and use the Eagle Cry bumper and give it a pause. Each and every segment, alright? That gives me plenty of time to prepare, that gives me time to walk around and treat it so that it doesn't, get worse. Alright? So, like I said, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to get things started right away with the FCC choosing to move forward with the thing they said they were going to move forward with. We'll be back. Welcome back. Eagle Eyes on Deck. Obvious. I'm Eagle Fell. Slightly injured, but still pushing forward. As only I can. Alright, so. The FCC follows through with their threat to end net neutrality. If you were to go onto Twitter right now, and more than likely on Facebook too. I don't know about Facebook though. I pretty much just visit the app to cancel the notifications I have. That's it. Because unfortunately, Facebook has become a toxic stew of nothing but political hatred. It doesn't matter what side they're on, it is just the worst. But regardless. The FCC, since the Trump administration has taken over, and fair warning, this is going to get fairly political, there's no way to avoid it, but this has to be talked about. It has to be. Because there are far too many morons who are, well, I shouldn't say morons. They're well-informed people, but they're not well-informed enough about the situation with net neutrality. Here's how the story starts. On February 26th, there we go, I can say numbers correctly. February 26, 2015, during the late years of the Obama administration, the FCC ruled that the internet should be treated as a utility, and under Title II of the Communications Act of 1934, Section 706, the FCC declared that broadband as basically a utility. therefore declaring that the FCC could do put whatever regulations they want with no oversight over the internet. Okay? I want you to be clear on this. February 26th of 2015. We're talking almost 3 years ago that this happened. It was then put in that these new regulations were put in that were declared as net neutrality. Okay? It was at April 13th that these net neutrality rules were put into place. Net neutrality is basically declaring that all traffic over the internet must be treated as equal. Now, when Trump won and placed his current head of the FCC, now everyone is naming the guy. I'm not going to, because I don't even have the name of the guy who originally put in net neutrality, and if I don't have one name, I'm not going to mention the other. This guy who's now in says that net neutrality is a government overreach and should be ended. And he has said this since he was put into office 11 months ago, almost a year ago. And we've talked about before on this podcast about how there's been various protests saying that the FCC should not do this, they should keep net neutrality in place, they should keep their control over the internet, blah, 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 blah. Despite the fact that the internet is already regulated by the FTC, the Federal Trade Communication. So currently, we have two bodies of government regulating the internet with no oversight. The FCC and the FTC. The FCC wants to withdraw its rules, and this is making everyone lose their minds. Tons of people on Twitter are protesting this. Tons of companies are protesting this. Where do I stand on this? I say, why not? No, really. Why not? Why not repeal net neutrality? It was a gross overstep that the FCC in the first place just declared the internet as a utility, and therefore we can assert authority over it. It is absolutely unnecessary because there already is a governing body looking over actions on the internet, the FTC, and the FTC has stepped in over and over and over again to prevent a lot of the tolls that is already that happened in the past. Without net neutrality, the internet thrived. Startups popped left and right and had no problem getting off the road. A lot of the claims that people are saying are just absurd the moment you think about them. The ISPs are going to stifle innovation. Give me a break. Where have you been before 2015? Are you saying no innovation happened between 2002 and 2015? The argument is stupid on its face. Blatantly. But the icing on the cake is that everyone is screaming as loud as they possibly can, trying to make comparisons like, if EA ran the internet, if EA ran the internet, that's what it's going to be like the moment net neutrality comes out. The problem is the fact that it is very easy to make these declarations. The thing is that it just took me 5 minutes to squish that declaration. It takes a lot more effort to prove how stupid the net neutrality argument is. The only thing net neutrality has done that the public is aware of, and I'm sure there's tons of stuff behind the scenes that we don't know about that net neutrality has done, but the only thing it's done in public was stop T-Mobile from giving away free data if it was connected to certain services. That's it. And that kind of reached into a weird gray area. But at the same time, it didn't stop T-Mobile. T-Mobile never stopped offering free Netflix on their phones. On them. You want to get right down to it. Unless someone wants to come forward with what neutrality has done for them, nobody can actually say it's accomplished anything. Because the one thing it tried doing publicly, it failed at! On top of all that, if you really want a set of rules like net neutrality, that all traffic must be treated as equals. And I've been saying this from the get-go, since the moment that net neutrality was a thought. Pass a law. That's the right way to do it. Don't have another body of government that has no one looking over it, that has no one keeping tabs on it, that just does whatever it wants without any input from the people. Just take control of things. That was the thing that always bothered me about net neutrality the moment it started. It was the fact that everyone kept saying the FCC has to do this. Only the FCC can do it. It always seemed suspicious on its face. It always seemed like a dumb request from the get-go. Have the SEC assume control over an entity that is already looked over by the FTC? It made no sense. And the fact that this many people are being tricked into believing that net neutrality is love, net neutrality is life, and only the FCC can put it into effect, and the moment the FCC, as it is now, relinquishes control, it's all over for everyone. That's dumb. And I encourage anyone who is still, even after listening to this rant, unsure of why repealing net neutrality is not a big deal, to actually go and do some research. Because guess what? It didn't take me long. Of my 3 hours of show prep, it took me less time to research all this than it did for me to rant about it. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Feld. Alright. I should start off here by saying, I'm sorry. I really am. The coverage I gave of the Tesla Semi last week was horrendous. And the problem with it was the way I normally do research and report on things was flawed for this event. And I should have known that it was going to be flawed. The way I normally do show prep is that I go through my various trusted sources, and then with each article, I double check and triple check with other sources to confirm that it's not a biased report. And even then, I check again and again and again and again with various things. And also have it pass my own sniff test, you know, all that jazz, right? That doesn't work with Tesla. And the reason it doesn't work with Tesla is that there are far too many mainstream tech outlets that give Tesla a free pass. They really do. And I know this to be true. It's on the same regard that lately a lot more outlets don't let Apple get away with anything. It used to not be the case, actually. Tech outlets loved Apple, and they let Apple get away with a lot. And nowadays, at least with the iPhone, places like CNET and pick anything, TechCrunch and whatever, the moment there might be any flaw, any potential flaw, without confirming the source, they immediately run with it. Immediately. And I try to double check on it, see if there are multiple different claims claiming the same sort of flaw before I report on it. But as you know, sometimes I can't get that. And there's actually even quite a lot of times where I report on anyone and just say, but it's only 2 accounts, or etc., etc., etc. I had a chance to go back and watch the entire Tesla Semi keynote, the entire presentation. There is a lot in there that was just kind of ignored. First, and I'm going to start with the bare basics. I actually have like 3 pages of notes I took during this. By the way, this might be the first time I've taken notes since college. Should probably do it more often, actually. Because there's quite a lot in this. First off, the event opens up, and I don't mean to sound racist, but it's going to sound racist anyway. The event opens up with an Indian guy speaking fairly decent English, but still kind of broken. You know what I mean, right? It's a very thick Indian accent, and the English doesn't sound very good. The thing is, though, is that guy spoke better English than Elon Musk did during the entire event. Like, look, tech engineer from India opening up the event, welcoming on Elon Musk, saying, okay, let's take a look at the Tesla Semi. I'm not going to do an accent, that's just terrible. And all that jazz. I'll give him a pass. It's clear English is not his native tongue. I don't know what Elon Musk's excuse was. I put on a better presentation performance in this podcast every week than Elon Musk did. He must have gotten absolutely wasted the night before. Or possibly even before getting into the truck. just huge moments of stuttering, stammering, trying to find words. But of course, the entire room is filled with nothing but Tesla fanboys and cultists. Everyone cheered at every moment they could. Well, except for one moment where Elon Musk was talking about how comfortably the truck drove. And he had to, urge on the audience to actually cheer. That was pretty funny. But enough about the actual presentation. Let's actually get into some of the details. Alright, I talked about this last time. The Tesla truck has a 500-mile range. And this is supposed to be really good. The thing is, and I can't remember if I talked about this last time or not, the average trucker is going to cover a lot more miles than that. And they want to say, 80% of the routes are 250 miles or less. I don't think so. Because, the regional market is expanding. And I wonder where they got this number that 250 miles is 80% of the average routes. With how many OTR truckers there are. How many truckers are living at truck stops, traveling coast to coast, getting goods from the various ports of the United States to inland America. It doesn't smell right. It just doesn't. But the thing is that, let's think about it for a minute. Let's pretend a trucker goes 60 miles an hour. They should be going 62, which is the golden space, but let's do 60 for easy math. They can drive for 11 hours a day. By law, that's their limit, 11 hours a day. They can be 14 hours on duty. 3 of those hours are on-duty breaks, mandatory, and pre-trip. Inspecting your truck, making sure that everything is in perfect operational order. And also time that you're stuck at a wait station is included in there, but that's very rare that you're actually stuck at a wait station, regardless. 11 times 60, that's 660. You want to say 62, that's 682. So that means your break has to be taken at a place with a supercharger. Has to. Otherwise, you're not going to have enough juice for the day. And here's another fun fact for you. Do you know what the range is of a diesel truck at full? 1,200 miles. And that is assuming that there are 2 100-gallon tanks on the truck, which is actually low for an OTR truck, and that the truck gets 6 miles to the gallon, which is also low. Most of the more modern trucks, if we want to compare the modern Tesla Semi to a modern, say, a Volvo VNL, or a modern Kenworth, or a modern International LT, or a modern Freightliner Cascadia, you're going to be getting closer to 8. Just because of the drastic improvements in aerodynamics that these trucks have taken. Which, on that same note, Elon wanted to insult trucks by saying they all have the aerodynamics of a barn door. He clearly has not been looking at the direction that big rigs are taking. Literally sticking these tractors with trailer into wind tunnels. Testing how the wind would go over every single curve They hand carve into this. International even going to the lengths of not only figuring out how the wind would travel over the nose of the truck, but hit it from the side, improving the aerodynamics from side to side. So yeah, you're talking over double the range that a diesel truck would have over a Tesla. And also, Elon Musk also wants to live in this pretend world where, oh yeah, the Tesla truck could just charge up while it's at the warehouse unloading. First off, you really think a warehouse that is trying to minimize costs as much as possible is going to let you plug in that electric truck and just leech off their electricity and rack up their electric bill? No. But let's pretend for a minute we live in Elon Musk's world. That we live in Elon Musk's world where superchargers will exist at the warehouse. Fellow truckers, how long is it until that one rookie greenhorn trucker absolutely demolishes that little charging station? I mean, it's just going to be a little gas pump with a wire going to it. Or even if they put it on an overhead thing, you know, some little noob from Celadon, Swift, JB, wherever, one of them's going to hit a support beam for that and cause the whole thing to come crashing down. You know it. Well, that'll be solved when self-driving trucks come out. But the Tesla truck has autopiloting things. Yeah, how many people have died using the autopilot? I know of at least 2. So yeah. Range-wise, you lose, Tesla. Good day, sir. Now, the other thing that I mentioned this last week, but I'm going to mention it again because it was one thing I don't think I mentioned last week. And it actually makes me wonder who was on the team for the Tesla Semi. The chair is positioned in the center of the truck. It's not positioned on the right side at all. In fact, really, the way it's built, the aerodynamics, the fact that it comes to almost a needle point, it actually reminds me a lot of a Peterbilt prototype truck that was made for Walmart. That was designed 5 years ago or something like that. It has a lot of that DNA. Now, I don't think that truck ever made it into production. I think it was a R&D effort by Walmart and Peterbilt to try and find the future of trucking, much like the various super truck projects. And I don't think that ever actually ended up happening. I think also because I don't think that thing had mirrors, it used cameras. But anyway, I'm actually kind of curious if a lot of the team for that Peterbilt project went over to Tesla to design this thing. There's a lot of that DNA here. Another thing of note. Tesla did say there is a pickup truck version of the Tesla Semi. They even commented that this could be a pickup truck that could haul a pickup truck. Now, it was said in kind of a joking manner. I don't think we're actually going to see a pickup truck version of the Tesla Semi. But considering the fact how many medium-duty Fords and Chevys were converted into pickup trucks, and I can know of at least one international TerraStar that was converted into a pickup truck, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be disappointed that there is no Tesla pickup truck. Oh, man. I already talked about that. There we go. Let's talk about this right here. Elon wants to say that the truck runs on sunlight because the charging stations are solar powered. But, and here's one thing that's kind of surprising to me. There are no solar panels actually on the truck, which, that's not surprising. But the trailer? Oh my god. Can you imagine the amount of brownie points Tesla would have gotten by saying, we're going to put solar panels on semi-trailers and let that electricity feed back into the truck to extend its range on sunny days? Oh my lord. This was a huge missed opportunity. Why wasn't it made? Oh, what can you do? Tesla also claims that jackknifing is impossible with the Tesla Semi. However, jackknifing happens when you're in slippery conditions, slide, or the momentum of the trailer goes faster than the truck. And this happens when you hard brake. Just because of that alone, I think it is possible for the Tesla Semi to jackknife. It's probably harder to do than on a normal Semi because the independent motors control each wheel. So it is true four-wheel drive, though, yeah, it would be four-wheel drive because there's nothing powering the... Well, actually, would it be four-wheel drive? It would be eight-wheel drive if it's a dually. If it's super singles, then it would be four-wheel. Regardless, because it's true four-wheel drive, it makes jackknifing less possible, but it's still possible. So that's more of a nitpicky sort of thing, but Tesla needs to be careful when they claim things like impossible. Kind of like how when they announced that the truck will not break down for 1,000,000 miles. 1,000,000 miles. 1,000,000 miles. This truck will never break down. Oh, guaranteed not to break down for 1,000,000 miles. Oh, I call BS. You can call it with me too. It's a no-brainer. It's gonna break down before it hits 1,000,000 miles. Just because the electric motors themselves are gonna have some sort of problem. One of the four motors wearing down a little bit faster than the others. It's a guaranteed to happen. I can't even count how many electric motors we've gone through at work on the various dryers. And those things, I guarantee you, they're nowhere close to 1,000,000 miles. Oh, but Eagle, it's a Tesla motor. Therefore, it's even better. It's so much better than a normal motor. Yeah, I hate to break it to you. Tesla doesn't exactly have a very good track record of meeting the highest standards of build quality. Sorry to break it to you. Just like Tesla wants to claim that their remote diagnostics and that sort of thing that they have for their Model S's and whatnot, which is also coming to the Semi, are unique and bring a breath of fresh air into maintenance and maintaining the vehicles. The following trucking companies are glaring angrily at Tesla at their BS. Kenworth, Freightliner, Volvo Trucks, Peterbilt, Western Star, Mack, and International. All of those confirmed for having remote diagnostics. Now, granted, on everyone except Mack and Volvo, you can opt out of it. That's an optional feature. Volvo and Mack, though, is on all of their trucks. Mack, I'm less sure of, but considering the fact that Mack is basically rebranded Volvo trucks, it's pretty certain that they also have it just like the Volvos do. One of the other outrageous claims, Tesla wants to claim that running a diesel truck costs $1.51 per mile for the truck. That's including fuel costs, maintenance, etc., etc., etc. If that is the case, the owner-operators of the world have been running at a constant loss since the dawn of time, and have never been able to feed themselves ever. The standard payment to an owner-op from the majority of the big logistics companies is $1.30 per mile. If it costs $1.51 to run a semi, that means every mile they're in the red 21 cents. That means the driver makes no money, the driver is not feeding himself, and the driver is wasting his time. This number, on its face, just by the way the world operates now, is BS. And then finally, the most important thing to point out during the entire Tesla Semi event is the fact that a plane flew over the conference hall and one idiot shouted out, "Tesla plane." Which raises the question, when is the all-electric plane coming out, and what happens when it runs out of range? No, that's obviously not important. I was just really amused by that. The one idiot. Shout out to that guy. Alright. Tesla Semi starts production in 2019. No price announced. They spent an entire segment talking about how much more efficient it was to run the truck than a diesel truck. But the diesel truck numbers were BS, so just on that, I can't trust the numbers they made for themselves, so what's the point? In addition, and this seems to just be talked about by almost no one, and this is something I have more faith in Tesla doing than the Semi. They are making a new Tesla Roadster. This is the sports car Tesla first launched back in, I don't know, the year 1515, whenever the heck they started. And there's some very fascinating stats about this thing. For starters, the new Tesla Roadster can do 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. That's insane. This beats the current production vehicles 0 to 60, that being the Dodge Challenger Demon with a colossal 800 horsepower that can do 0 to 60 in 2.1 seconds. They also mentioned a statistic for 0 to 100, but nobody's going to do that. The top's roadster speed is above 250 miles per hour. That's nuts. That is absolutely nuts. Tesla claims the Roadster range is 620 miles at highway speed. I'm a little skeptical of that, but we'll see. Elon also says that the Roadster uses 3 motors. And this is, quote, to give gas-powered cars a hardcore smackdown. I mean, yeah. It is kind of obvious. The Roadster was made just to compete with the muscle cars of the current generation. Now, I'm not going to say it's made to compete with the Demon, because I'm willing to bet the Roadster wasn't even a thought when the Demon came out. The Demon was only announced, what, a couple months ago? Like 6 months ago, I think? So more than likely it was competing with the other top tier muscle car, which I think is a different Dodge Challenger. I think it was the Hellcat, which was sitting at like 720 horsepower or something like that. Maybe there was something else that had more than that. In which case, I apologize, mystery car. But still, if you want to say, okay, we're going to give gas-powered cars a hardcore smackdown by saying we can outmuscle you, that's great. Make the car. And make it well. That's the key here. They can't even make the car decently. I mean, they can make it, but not well. The Roadster, to the shocking surprise of everyone, the Roadster is a 4-seating car. There's 4 seats, but the rear seats are for, quote-unquote, smaller people. Or one larger person scrunched in the back. I would just say, why bother? Just make it extra trunk space. The Roadster will start production in 2020. So, what are my thoughts? I'm a little surprised that the Roadster got 0 attention. It honestly is the more interesting of the 2 vehicles. Tesla Semi, you know, it's an electric truck. It's exactly what we thought it was. The only real The only real surprise is the fact that it's designed a lot like the Peterbilt prototype from a few years ago. So, I mean, what are you going to do? I think that anyone who invests in the Tesla Semi is going to be in for a rude awakening when they discover quite a few things. A, the autopilot is not going to be as good as they want to think it is. And B, range is going to be a huge issue. Even assuming that their numbers are correct. Which, I'd say odds are 50-50 that they're correct. Even assuming they're correct, there's going to be huge problems. It's not going to cover what an OTR driver does in a day. It's not going to be able to power the sleeper that's in it. And it's going to require Tesla to partner up with one of the big truck stop chains, whether it be Pilot, Flying J, Love's, TA, to install superchargers there. And the thing is that Tesla, for whatever reason, hates, underline hates, teaming up with anyone. They never, ever want to do it. And that's the thing. If Tesla licensed out their stuff, if they went and instead became a division of, say, Ford or GM, and those are the only two I'm willing to say because everyone else is foreign, I'd rather have Tesla stay local or in the US. They could be so much more than they currently are. But instead, all they are is just a mess. A scattered brain mess trying to do way too much. That's all there is to it. Stay tuned. The last burp is coming up. Hey everyone, before we get started, I want to talk for a moment about the great website we just built for Eagle Eyes on Tech. You can actually find it at eagleeyes.tech. It's now a new home just for the podcast with, I'm going to say, a very beautiful layout. And keep in mind with this one, this is just the rough draft and it looks this good. We have a lot more coming planned for it. You can find that at eagleeyes.tech. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. We're approaching the 1 hour mark already. Turned out I had a lot that I just avoided on the Tesla Semi, and I feel bad for that. Might end up being the Tesla Semi episode instead of it being the FCC episode. Or maybe it's going to be the loot box, I can talk. The loot box episode, because Belgium's Justice Prime Minister, take a deep breath. Okay, we can do this. Belgium's Justice Minister calls for a loot box ban in the entire EU. This coming after the dawn of the EA controversy. Just real quick, the EA controversy is on the game Battlefront 2. The game lets you spend in-game currency to buy loot boxes, and loot boxes buy power. Alright? It's basically a mechanism that feeds into some people's gambling addictions, and you could, though you can't anymore, could spend real money for in-game currency and use that to get more loot boxes. Now the only way to do it is in-game, and they removed the limiter that was on certain in-game functions, encouraging you even harder to buy in-game currency. This very well was one of the bigger cash grabs that EA has done in a long time. And granted, DICE also is not innocent in this. The ones who actually developed the game. EA just published it. But EA has a tendency to kind of guide developers toward this. So, in the end, they're both kind of responsible for this, but regardless. The Justice Minister is calling for this kind of nonsense to be banned in all of the EU. Now, that's not the biggest market in the world, but it ain't a small one either. Oh man, that would, if this actually goes through, that would be enormous. And it would, in fact, most likely kill the way a lot of games actually make money. Now, before you get your hopes up and think that this is the end of cash-grabbing loot boxes, China already has a very similar ban in place. And Overwatch avoids this by allowing the players to buy the Overwatch currency for real Chinese dollars, but only in China. If such a tweak would work in an EU ban, then it's not going to change a whole lot. But now, if it does go to the lengths that they're saying it would, which is not as big as the ban in China, that would actually kill a few games. Like, Overwatch would be fine. They'd lose a revenue source, but they can make that up elsewhere. Future expansion packs, extra map modes, that sort of thing. Locking that behind a DLC paywall, they can make it up that way. Currently, they don't. Currently, they make up their extra cash through the loot box system for costumes, which are not necessary to the game, unlike with Battlefront 2, where it absolutely was necessary for the game. And I'm sure there's plenty of other lesser-known titles where it's necessary to the game. But let's look at a different Blizzard title. Let's look at Hearthstone for a minute. Hearthstone, a free-to-play game in which you play a card game, starting out with a basic deck in which you're guaranteed to only get up to rank 20 if you're lucky. Earn in-game currency in the form of 10 coins for every 3 wins, or completing special quests which give a lot more, and then spending 100 coins to get 1 booster pack of virtual cards, which contains 5 cards, which are usually 4 commons and a rare. And of course, you can buy packs as well, and that's what pretty much anyone who wants to be competitive in the game has to do. It's almost to the point where, unless you're on a free-to-play challenge, it's basically pay-to-play. If this sort of ban went into place in the EU Hearthstone would have to change drastically. And more than likely, if it's a drastic enough change, it would change all of Hearthstone across the world. So this could go some very interesting ways. All right. I don't have a whole lot of time left. I want to quickly give a quick shout out to PC Per, who on November 22nd published an article about protecting yourself against pineapple penetration. No, it's not that. No, get your mind out of the gutter. No, they're talking about the Wi-Fi pineapple. This is a hacking device I thought was long dead, to be perfectly honest. The Wi-Fi pineapple is a router that behaves abnormally. The way it works is that whenever your Wi-Fi card or your device searches for Wi-Fi hotspots, what it does is that goes through a list of known entities. So when it finds a router, your Wi-Fi card basically goes, "Are you home Wi-Fi?" And it'll go, "No." "Are you Starbucks Wi-Fi?" "No." Are you target Wi-Fi? Yes. Oh, okay, I'm in. The Wi-Fi pineapple lies. And basically, the first thing that's on your Wi-Fi list, it'll just say yes to. So let's say you're out and about, your phone goes, hey, don't mind the home Wi-Fi, and you're within range of a pineapple. The pineapple's going to say yes and establish a connection. And you're thinking, so what? You're connected to another router, you're going to get internet. But that's just it. You're connected to an unfamiliar router now. And the owner of a Wi-Fi pineapple can now perform a whole lot of sneaky attacks, like man-the-middle attacks. Be in the middle of all your traffic and watching everything you do and collect data that way. Or phishing attacks. See you're going to your bank site, instead forward you over to their phishing site, which looks exactly like your bank site, and collect your information and drain your account that way. The article goes through a lot of other details. I can tell you one that still works. At the very top of your list, put in caution pineapple as an unsecured Wi-Fi network. Just manually put that in your list. So therefore, if you're out and about and you see that, oh, you're connected to caution pineapple, you know you're connected to a pineapple, and therefore you can just disconnect from it. It's the easiest way to avoid Wi-Fi pineapple attacks, but the article goes into a bit more detail, talking about various links from a Slashdot post. I highly recommend checking that out. That's at PCPer, spelled just as it sounds, PCPER.com. Now let's get to the last burb. Our tech story of the most random nonsense of the week. This one goes to Allied Control, showing off a submerged cooling system. What they are using is that they have an entire Bitcoin mining rig submerged in 3M's Novec Fluid. The entire computer is submerged in this. No cooling fans, no nothing. In fact, the graphic cards for this Bitcoin mining rig, completely taken off. No heatsink on the processor, no nothing. This rig performs cooler than if it was fully water cooled. And the reason being is actually very interesting in itself. This Novec Fluid that this mining rig is submerged in, its boiling point is only 41 degrees Celsius. So this means, in a completely sealed solution, the fluid makes contact with these various components, which most of them under load are easily at 50 degrees Celsius. The liquid then immediately boils, goes to the top of the tank, and is then forced to be replaced by cooler liquid. The gas is then trapped at the top, recondenses, goes back down into the tank. And this thing can be cooled forever just by using the same fluid over and over again by having it recondense at the top. Now, eventually, the heated gas at the top would warm up the air to the point where recondensing going back down to the tank would be slower and slower and slower. And eventually, this rig could boil away all the liquid. And because it's non-water, it's not going to shorten anything. It's all non-conductive fluid. So what does this mean for the average person? It doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. This is just really, really, really cool. And sometimes you just have to look at something that's really, really cool and go, man, that's really cool. That's it for the last burp, and that is it for me. Thank you, everyone who listened in. I know today was a very abnormal show, but please give your feedback if you kind of like this format, and maybe if I don't injure myself and make myself incapacitated, I can get more detail on other things. Email me, eaglefalcontech@gmail.com. Also check out the new home. Take care. See you then. Next week at noon. Holy crap, it took longer to record this than I thought. It's 11:52 a.m. right now. I have 8 minutes to get dressed and get to Thanksgiving. Whoops!